everybody, it's Gene Marks, and welcome to another episode of the Hartford Small Biz Ahead podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, watching us, listening to us. I have today the honor of speaking to Tiffany Ju, who is the founder and head designer at Chunks. First of all, Tiffany, thank you very much for being on the show. We're really glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Gene. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am excited for you to be here. AAPI Heritage Month, the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So doubly happy to have you here as well. So let's first of all, we got a lot going on. We have a lot to talk about your company. I want to talk about manufacturing overseas. I want to talk about sustainability. I want to talk about your podcast, which is called The Clip Show. But before we even get to this, Tiffany, so I've got, now Alyssa loves these things, okay? She's telling me there's this clip thing. I tried using it, but I unfortunately not very successful. Tell us about, this is one of the products that you guys make, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we focus on hair accessories, specifically clips and claws.
Right. This is another one as well. Is this a joke that we're having somebody on that's like focuses on hair accessories and I have absolutely no hair? Is this some kind of a practical, like a paper? Okay. So you sell hair accessories for people that have hair. You sell it primarily online. So you have e-commerce and also through wholesale as well, correct? Give us a little bit of history about the company. Tell us about what Chunks does.
Sure. I started Chunks in 2019. And if you want to go further back than that, I actually graduated from Parsons with a fashion design degree. And ever since I left, I really always gravitated towards this intersection of fashion and product. So accessories. I love accessories. And I started this business kind of by just happenstance, but in 2012, I started dyeing these ombre tights and I put them up on Etsy and they went like super viral. Wow. So I kind of stumbled into that business having no idea what I was doing. And it was really difficult. I think because I didn't have that compass of knowing what I was doing or knowing what I wanted out of the business. And it was very labor intensive, but it was like definitely paying the bills. And I learned a lot throughout that chapter of my life. So that was 2012 to about 2018.
Wow. So stop for a second. So during that 6-year period of time, was the business sustaining you? I mean, were you earning a livelihood from it at that point?
Yeah, definitely. And it definitely afforded me, enough income to live, to rent a studio, to have some employees, and just to kind of figure out what I was doing.
I can't imagine, if you're going to Parsons, I'm sure you're among a lot of other creative people, at that time. And yet, and I'm sure many others were creating not only just stuff like this, but other things that they could sell online. But you figured out sort of like a formula to actually make money off of it initially. And you've taken it to a different level recently. But I'm just kind of curious, what did you know that a lot of your classmates didn't know? Or what were you doing that was so different?
Oh my gosh, I would not even, in hindsight, maybe I could say that, but at the time I did not see it that way. Right. I just knew that working in the fashion industry wasn't for me. And it was actually a really difficult period of my life because I didn't know what to do then. Like, if I'm not using this fashion degree to work in fashion, then what should I do? So I was at this crossroads where at that time that I was kind of starting that business in 2012, I was actually studying for my GMATs to go back and get an MBA. And the week that I got accepted into that MBA program was also the week that I went viral with these tights that I was making. So it was really okay, do I go to school to learn the business or do I just work and learn the business as I go? So
that is
obviously
a hard decision to make. So I'm assuming you made the decision to work to grow the business and not pursue the MBA. Is that correct?
I did. I was like, well, I might as well just not put myself further in debt. So
did your family and friends think that you were absolutely crazy for doing that?
No, they were all really excited. I mean, they saw the dollars coming in and you can't, it looked pretty good. So,
During that period of time, were you making all these products yourself or were you asking, were you outsourcing it yet?
Well, so I was dyeing tights. So I would source these like blank tights, like nylon tights, like pantyhose sort of, and then I would hand dye them. But it was a very labor intensive process because I was like ombre dyeing them, which is a really difficult method of dyeing.
Next question. First, I have a million questions. I'm sorry, because it fascinates you when you're first starting this up. So you're doing that. Did you have any employees during all this period of time, or is it just you doing all this work?
No, it was just me. I had this random idea and I cooked them up in my kitchen, and I literally didn't even know how to ship a package. You know, I knew how to take some pretty photos. I'm a creative, so I know how to make the thing. I know how to make it look pretty, but I didn't know the rest of it.
So how did you figure it out? I mean, you had to set up a website, you had to sell this stuff, you had to find customers, you had to do accounting, you had to, understand how to promote the brand. How did you figure this stuff out?
Well, yeah, I made the thing, and luckily, Etsy was pretty popular at the time. So, and it's pretty easy to set up. So it was about the amount of tech that I could do, which was great. And then I really just had to learn as I went along. Like I had to learn how to ship a package when I started getting the orders, and I had to, learn how to do customer service when I was getting like flooded with emails because I had now like a 4-month waiting list. And then like, as far as the accounting, which is not my strength and continues to not be my strength. I was just like dumping receipts in a bucket and being like, I'll handle this later. And, just asking people, what to do and just kind of going through different accountants. But that was a tricky part because I don't know how to navigate that part of it well. So, working with accountants that kind of didn't understand my business was part of it. And just figuring out how to do my books and realizing that I should probably hire someone to do this because
that's it's a whole other topic is about, being, smart financially. And you were dyeing these pantyhose and making these products like in your place. Where were you living at the time? You're in Seattle now. So was it also in Seattle and like some?
Yeah. I was in Atlanta at the time in an apartment complex, and like within the first week, I got hundreds of orders. So by the end of the week, I was able to buy a car, which my old car had just died, and I was able to rent out the apartment next to mine. Like I made like $10,000 that first week. So
amazing.
Yeah. So I just quickly kind of pulled stuff together. I hired some ladies in my neighborhood to help me dye these tights. And it was just like whatever I could scrape together.
Your neighbors must have loved you, right?
Because I had these big boiler pots on the ground.
I'm sure. So they must have been so excited.
Oh, they thought I was like making drugs or something. Like they would daily knock on my door and be like, "What is this noise?"
That is amazing. Okay, so you're doing all of that. You're in, and this is all in Atlanta during this period of time.
Yes.
And again, originally, it's a very low. It sounds like you started this up with very little capital as well. So it was just your brains and a few bits of material to buy. And by the way, I do have to go back to something that you said before. Like you made $10,000. You got like all these orders, and I just want to make sure because I'm the accountant here. You didn't make $10,000 yet. Okay, you got paid $10,000. Now you still have to go and actually deliver all the products.
Right. Well, I had 10,000 in the account. That's the sales that I got that first week. Right.
Fair enough. Okay. Just to make sure that we are clear. Just because there are other business owners watching this, and I want to be clear. If your customers buy the $10,000 worth of stuff, you still have to make sure you come through and deliver.
A great clarification.
Yes, and it does take some money to do that. This is awesome. So you were saying about like this 2012 to like 2018. So this is like where your life was. And one other question: during that 6-year period of time, did you eat at all? Did you watch a TV show? Did you see sunlight? Was there any of that, or was it just all slaving over the pots of boiling pantyhose?
It was rough. It was rough to balance all that out because I would just like isolate myself and work for like weeks. And then obviously there was like a breaking point with that. And I also met my husband shortly, my now husband, while
you met him during this period.
Yeah. Like a couple months after. So I was still in the thick of it. And then shortly after we started dating, he got a job in Seattle.
Okay.
So I picked
That's why
up
you
and
moved.
I moved. That's why I'm here.
I got to ask you, so you met your husband while you were working all these hours, making, I mean, how did you, was he like your postman or something? Like, how do you actually meet somebody like with all the work that you were doing?
I mean, I did have employees to help.
Okay.
Yeah, but one thing is like I can work really hard, but
Right.
I still really need that balance in my life. Like I can't completely go off the deep end working
Good.
because I know it's not sustainable for me.
Right.
So I
It's
tried
good
to
advice.
balance
You have to
it,
have
but
balance. You have, no matter how
yeah,
hard you're working, even in a startup situation, you have to be able to balance because otherwise, I mean, it's not good for your own mental health. It's just you have to have that balance. Okay, so then you moved to Seattle. It's around 2018. You still got the business going. What happens next?
So I moved to Seattle in 2013. So this all happened
Oh,
really
okay.
fast.
Oh, okay.
And we rented a studio. I found some employees, and just kept moving with the business. And still at that point, I, I had orders lined up for probably 3 or 4 years. I think like
Wow.
I was still just didn't really have to do any marketing. Like it was just
Wow.
still coming in. So,
Wow. All these people
so
found you on Etsy, so I guess this was word of mouth.
They found me. Yeah, they found me on originally like it started going viral on Tumblr. I don't know if
Okay.
you remember what Tumblr was, but
Sure.
it was kind of a blogging platform, and then it also popped up on Pinterest. So that's usually where people would find me, and then they would come to my Etsy store.
Amazing, right? And that just all happened organically. So you got lucky. I mean, a lot of skill involved, but there's a little bit of luck involved that you managed to get found. And you were saying like did you literally have a 4-year backlog for orders? Did I get
Pretty
that right?
much,
So
yeah.
somebody would have the foresight to order pantyhose like 4 years in advance. Like, how did you meet that? Usually, I would think like if you have an online business and you order something online in this day and age, you expect to get it like this afternoon. Not 4 years
Hmm.
from now. So, how did you balance that?
Well, so I continued to get orders for about 4 years. Like I didn't hit zero on in the queue for four
Okay.
years, but
Okay.
the waiting period for each customer was like I think the longest it got was like 4 months right at the beginning.
Okay.
But I tried to keep it to like I don't know a month or two or something. But how I handled that was great communication
Good.
because what really I think frustrates a customer is when they don't hear anything and then they have to reach out to you.
Yes.
So I would be really proactive with that and communicate like, listen, this is what happened. And as long as like I was being really transparent about where I was and they knew that I was working as hard as I could, they became like really supportive of me.
People will be more understandable than you think, as long as you are transparent with them and you're communicating with them. And you find most people are good, and it's not as if they're waiting for something that has an expiration date or whatever. It's obviously a sort of a novelty or specialty type of item, and so they're willing to wait for it because it's good stuff. And by the way, this communication, were you personally doing all of this, or did you have like a marketing person or a customer service person, somebody to help you out, with that communication?
I was personally doing it for a long time. I
Wow.
think at some point, maybe one of my employees kind of shared it with me, but
Yeah.
I really felt the need to communicate with my customers one on one in that business because it was such a personal thing that was happening, and I felt very responsible for for that experience. So, yeah, I
We
did a
all hit
lot of
that
it myself.
we all hit that point of we do love our customers, and then you're communicating with them, and then as we're going to get into, as you grow, it's harder and harder to do that,
Yeah.
and it's hard to break from that. You really, even
Hmm.
today, I'm sure you wish you could be personally communicating with all of your customers, but it's just
Hmm.
impossible to do. And
Correct.
that's why companies grapple with that all the time. So, okay,
Hmm.
so at some point you had to get manufacturing help, right? I mean, you are not. There are only so many pots you can boil these materials in. You had to send this out somewhere. And my understanding is that you have a lot of manufacturing done in China now. Is that correct?
Okay, so we haven't even gotten to chunks, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is not chunks. This is like all previous
No,
stuff.
yeah,
Okay.
this is my previous business.
Yeah.
So come 2018, I realized, well, starting from 2016, I was trying to figure out my next thing because I knew this wasn't a sustainable business because it wasn't scalable. I couldn't outsource it. It was just too difficult.
Okay.
So I spent a couple years trying to like really figure out what I was going to do next. I knew I wanted to stay in some sort of accessories world because that's what I love and that's what I know. So it took a lot of like trial and error. I tried jewelry, I tried, clothing, I tried other types of soft good accessories. And then 2018, I really felt like it was it was time to just like end that business. And I actually just took a year off and made art. I think like before I'm an entrepreneur, I am an artist. And just kind of using that time to reset and get back to just clarity in what I even like, what I want to do, how I want to spend my time. So that was a really clarifying year for me. Kind of all bets, all pressure was off for a bit.
Did you find it difficult? Even you put your heart and soul into this business for a good 5 years. Mm-hmm. You built up a brand. You built up, a customer base. I mean, how difficult was it for you to just walk away from it? I mean, it's a tough thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly wasn't that difficult. Like, I knew I still kind of could go back to it if I wanted to, but I really didn't want to. Like, I was just ready. I was really ready to move on.
I asked that. I asked that because a lot of, a lot of my clients, a lot of people, they stick with businesses or product lines. They have like an emotional attachment to it, or, oh, this is my baby, or I was doing this for so many, whatever. And every business has like a lifespan. You got to the end of this one. You said it wasn't scalable, so you basically said like, all right, a business is a business. I got to move on, to something else, which seems like that was the right decision. So, so you took that year off, you got your head together, you did some art, you chilled for a little bit. And then what happened next?
So in about 2018, the idea just really dawned on me because I personally, hair clips is a staple of like every woman's dresser. And it's just this product that we use daily. It's not cute. And at least in 2018, you couldn't really find cute ones. You bought them at the drugstore. They were cheap and brown and ugly. And I was like, there is an opportunity here, especially because I know that one of my strengths is I can see a trend. I can spot a trend when it's coming. And in 2018, I saw this trend of the 90s and the Y2K in fashion coming back. And hair accessories was a big part of that culture. Wow. And there hadn't been a lot of like change in that category for decades, right?
Right.
And so I looked around and I was like, oh, there's also nobody else really doing this. So it was a moment of like looking left, looking right, and being like, huh. So I looked more into it. I had done some overseas manufacturing in my previous business where I was like experimenting with other products. So I looked into the manufacturing. It was really doable. The margins were great. The turnaround time was great. The minimums were great.
Stop. So you say that you looked into the manufacturing, right? Which is just like, well, I looked into the manufacturing and I saw that the margins were really attractive, whatever. What does that mean? You looked into the manufacturing. Where did you look? Who did you talk to?
I literally just like hopped onto Alibaba, really. Okay. Yeah, for these things. And it really varied.
So Alibaba, which for those of you guys watching and listening, it's Chinese-based Amazon, the biggest e-commerce platform in the world still, and but Alibaba is like selling products like at retail to consumers. You were looking, but I thought you were looking for like a cost to manufacture or something.
Yeah. AliExpress is direct to consumers. Alibaba is B2B, is manufacturing.
So it's core materials that that you would be buying from, right? So
it's for manufacturers and trading companies.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you were able to source and see what the materials were, and also what what a manufacturer would charge you to make, one of these, hair thingamabobbers, to make sure that and you could get all that information from Alibaba at the time, and I'm sure you can still do that now if you're looking to do, sourcing into China, which is super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, it really depends on what product you're looking to make, what category you're in, and that determines like where you're looking to source things. So I have no idea how to, source for food and bev or for electronics or whatever. But for my product, Alibaba is perfect. It is overwhelming because there's a lot of manufacturers on there, but you just have to do the work, and you just have to, do an equal amount of Googling to kind of figure out how to navigate through. So I read a lot of blog posts. I did a lot of research, and I did a lot of just talking to different manufacturers.
So let's talk about that. When you talked about different manufacturers, how does one talk to a foreign manufacturer? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, luckily they all can communicate really well in English. I mean, there's varying degrees. I've worked with some manufacturers who have great English, and we Zoom regularly. I have some that it's a little more difficult, and but yeah, they all can communicate enough to get the transaction, across.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So you identified a few manufacturers, I guess, in China. You had discussions with them, and at some point you selected one of them to do your Did you ever physically go there and visit? Did you ever feel the need to do that?
Yeah, it was actually, so I started Chunks in 2019, and I was like, awesome. We had a pretty good year. I was like, I would really love to go in 2020.
Yeah, great timing.
Yeah. So I have not yet.
But you plan to.
Yeah, we Zoom pretty regularly, and just recently, like in the past few months, they've opened up the borders again. So I actually met one of my core manufacturers last month because he came to the States. So we have met in person. I'm really excited to go like next year, beginning of next year.
I mean, other than the chance to visit China, which is awesome, but is there what other reason would you actually have to physically go? I mean, in other words, would you recommend other people doing like what you're doing to actually go and visit the manufacturer, or is it more just out of a relationship or a curiosity type of thing?
I think it is so important. And I'm learning the further along I go in this business, the more I learn how important it is to actually meet in person and to really foster that relationship. And even as the lead designer, I'm seeing how valuable. I'm so excited to go next year because there's certain design advantages that I know will be so helpful if I can just spend a couple weeks there.
Wow. Okay. I know we want to talk about sustainability and how important that is, to you and also to your business. And is that part of the reason why you also want to, visit that manufacturer as well to make sure that what they're doing aligns with your goals of sustainability? Talk to me a little bit about that and how that's all worked its way in with Chunks.
Yeah, sustainability was something that has really evolved as I grew the company. It wasn't I wasn't on a mission from day one. I was kind of just, making cute clips, making some sales.
Right.
But slowly, I mean, I learned about the materials, and acetate, which is what our hair clips are primarily made out of, is what's called a bioplastic. And it's actually an alternative to conventional plastic, which is made out of petroleum. Okay. Acetate is made out of cellulose, which is actually derived from plant materials. So it has much shorter lifespan than conventional plastic. And it's not made from fossil fuels.
Right.
So we really wanted to advocate for continuing to make products from only acetate, as little plastic as possible. Even in our packaging, we're still working on that. And then also some other values we developed over time about just like being really transparent and also a little bit educational about overseas manufacturing, because I think culturally a lot of us have a lot of stereotypes or assumptions about Chinese manufacturing in particular.
Yeah. So
Right.
how have you married those two? How did you get over that to make yourself feel comfortable that a Chinese manufacturer was actually practicing the types of sustainability practices you would find acceptable?
Well, sure. I think, manufacturing can get wild, right? But at the end of the day, they're only providing us with, whatever supply to the demand, right? There has to be the demand for the product. And that's why their manufacturing has taken off. And that's,
right.
I think in every country's economic story as an industrial country, it goes through these phases.
So we've all had dark phases. That's right.
Yes.
When it comes to the environment. Right.
Right. So first of all, I think companies have to take radical accountability for themselves and how they approach their own manufacturing, because that's where it starts. And so that's just the approach that I come with is like,
Good.
okay, how do I want to design products and run this company in a way that's responsible, and not just say, this is like your, as a manufacturer, this is like on you.
Got it. Fair enough. So you ask these questions of your Chinese manufacturer. They're giving you the answers. You're hopefully satisfied with those answers, what they're doing. You're going to go there because there's nothing better than, I'm a trained auditor, so there's nothing better than visually inspecting to make sure that they are doing what they promise that they, are going to do. I'm kind of curious what happens if you go and they're not meeting up to your standards. You arrive there and you're like, you guys said you were doing this, but you're not. Not that anybody in business doesn't tell the truth all the time, but
Right.
How would you handle that? Would you be prepared to make changes?
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully that wouldn't happen, but
I hope not.
I also would cross that bridge when I get there, because you have to put a certain amount of faith and trust in your manufacturing partners. We have fostered a relationship with them that's really built on trust and respect. And like, you can't like get so much in their business that it starts to breed, some bad feelings or
lack of trust there, or that credibility, right?
And so that's why we also kind of look to certifications and audits, third-party audits, and then also on our end, we're a member of 1% for the Planet and climate neutral. So we make sure the oversight is kind of handled through these organizations that are able to create like a standard framework for what's good or what's bad,
The only reason I bring that up is that you've been an advocate for sustainability, and you're out there talking about it, and you're advertising it like, hey, do business with us, buy our hair clips because they are sustainable products. And it's almost like, big companies that sell products and then they have their products manufactured overseas and they find out that their manufacturers were not being very, good at what they said they were going to do. You know what I mean? So, and it's not just you, it's like any business that is making a claim and building a brand around a certain thing. You've got to really be going, the extra mile to make sure that is actually happening, because it would be a PR catastrophe for you if that wasn't happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm assuming it's got to be a top priority of yours.
Yeah, we really make a strong effort to be as transparent as possible on socials. We do a lot of that on socials because a lot of our customers are there, and just showing them how things are made and what production really looks like. Because I think a lot of the reality check comes when we think we buy these things and we have opinions on what we think, how we think it's produced, and then the reality hits. So I think there's a lot of education to be done about let's be real. Let's be real about like the things that we're buying and where they come from and how they're made.
Yep.
And then
I agree.
and then we have to take responsibility of like, okay, I'm still going to buy this thing, or I don't have to buy this thing.
Yeah, it's funny that you say. We were just talking about that at lunch, weren't we? I mean, there was we get packages delivered from from an e-commerce giant that's with like tons of plastic and wrapping inside of it for like a tube of toothpaste that I order, and and I start thinking to myself, like, I'm not really helping the environment very much by placing this if this is the way it's going to come, So, consumers have responsibility, the businesses have responsibility as well, and we still have a long way to go. Tiffany, I have like a million more questions for you, and just which we don't have time. We have to bring you back for a second part because you're, I have questions about your relationship with selling, you're getting this manufactured overseas, like how you're paying them. Are you maintaining inventory here in the U.S. or do they just drop ship directly? Are you maintaining inventory here? You are.
Yes. Okay. They ship. They ship inventory here, and then we fulfill out of our warehouse. Actually,
lots of questions about how you're doing that and how you're managing that fulfillment process, and also how you did that through COVID, which I'm sure was tons of fun for you to do as well. And then also, I know you're selling both online and then also through distributors as well. So I'm curious how you lined up those distributors and how we sold online. Let's talk about the Clip Show, please. Okay, great podcast. Tell us a little bit why you started it and what it's all about and where people can find it.
Yeah, so the Clip Show was really born because me, my ops director, and our two social media girls were having a meeting one day. And we were trying to create some content around our manufacturing and our production. But we were finding it really difficult to take this kind of complex issue and topic and boil it down to like a 10-second little soundbite.
Yeah.
So we had this like hour-long conversation where Christina and I were telling our social media team members like what the deal was about the question that they had, and they were like, how do I boil that down?
Yeah.
So I was like, man, we should have just recorded this whole thing, and then you could have like chopped it up and used those
into clips.
So so that's right. So that's really how the podcast idea was born. Like, let's give ourselves space to talk about these issues in a more nuanced and more in-depth way, and then we are able to also like use it for social media and stuff like that. But it's a really complex topic that's full of gray area and full of kind of unresolved conflicts and brutal truths. So the podcast has been really helpful in doing that. Plus, I also use it to talk about small business stuff because I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, and I really love to talk about it. So.
Yeah, that's great. And a lot of the topics that are on the show as well, like they speak specifically to a lot of the issues that we are all running businesses. And it's great to hear your thoughts on that as well as the group. So it's a great show. And Spotify, iTunes, all the major podcast platforming services carry it. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody, or if there's anything where it's not carried. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're actually about to change the title and go through a little bit of revamp, but as long as you search Chunks, you should be able to find it. Okay,
you can find it on Chunks. That sounds great. Tiffany, great to hear and speak with you. And again, I promise you that we'll have you back. As you can tell, I have a lot more to ask about what you're up to and what you're doing. And how many employees do you have now?
Total, including our fulfillment team, 15.
Okay, so we got to talk about workplace issues as well. We got the whole thing to get into. So we're going to get back to some of that as well. I've been speaking with Tiffany Ju, who's the founder and head designer at Chunks. Tiffany, website, please.
Yeah, it's chunks.shop, and our handles on TikTok and Instagram are both at chunks.shop.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, thank you so much for listening and watching. I promise you we'll bring Tiffany back. My name is Gene Marks. You've been listening and watching the Hartford Small Biz Ahead podcast. If you need any tips or advice or help in running your business, please visit us at smallbizahead.com or sba.thehartford.com. We will see you again next time. Take care.